His first sensation was softness. The kind of softness that doesn't belong in sterile hospitals or starships. But in dreams he wasn't sure he was having anymore. Liar Vane stirred slowly, his body half numb, his throat dry, and his mind foggy like a system reboot stuck at 3%. Above him, a ceiling of gilded patterns stretched like alien art, glowing faintly in rhythm with some unknown energy source. He blinked once, then twice, and that's when he noticed the two figures standing silently at the foot of his bed. One shimmered in hues of deep sapphire blue, her skin iridescent like a night sea. Her silver-white hair flowed down her back in impossibly straight strands. Her eyes, pale as polished quartz, studied him with tranquil precision. The other figure was emerald-skinned, glowing faintly under the golden ambient light, with eyes the color of burning teal fire and a mouth that seemed permanently curved into a wicked smirk. Both of them wore little more than ceremonial bodysuits, thin, webbed fabric shaped more to honor their bodies than to hide them. They looked like trouble dressed as temptation. Consciousness stabilized, the sapphire one said, her voice soft and melodic like wind through glass. Vital signs within range. Welcome back, Subject 482 Liar Vane. I'm where? Liar croaked, voice like static. Legally? The green-skinned one stepped closer, dragging her fingers along the side of the bed. You're on Valorith Station, sub-district of the Galactic Classification Bureau. She leaned over him now, her breath a warm whisper near his cheek. Physically, you're in our care. Emotionally? Well, she smiled, sharp and amused, that's what we're here to develop. What the hell does that mean? It means you were declared officially deceased 12 standard hours ago, said the blue-skinned one, stepping forward with something that looked like a sleek obsidian tablet in her hands. Her voice was patient, almost tender. Your escape pod's vitals registered non-responsive. Under Clause 9X, Section D, all unclassified souls must be assigned transitional guardianship. Guardianship? Liar repeated, blinking. I didn't agree to anything. You were legally unconscious. The green-skinned one chimed in, delighted. Which means the system decided for you. She sat gracefully beside him on the edge of the bed, and he could smell something exotic on her skin like spices and stars and heat. We're not just nurses or therapists, she continued, trailing. A single clawed finger lightly across the blanket draped over his chest. We are your assigned emotional regulators. I don't need emotional regulation, Liar snapped. Oh, you will, she purred. Enough, Filari. The blue-skinned one interrupted, tone cool but not unkind. She turned her gaze toward Liar, setting the tablet on a table beside the bed. My name is Narration, and my sister is Filari. We are part of the Guardian Pairing Program unique to cases like yours. You've been placed under dual-link support until your existential status is reclassified. I'm not dead, Liar said flatly. Not legally alive either, Narration replied. You're in limbo. A rare and delicate state. And until the system corrects your classification, Filari added, already reclining on the other side of the bed, her leg casually brushing against his under the covers. We're responsible for your stability. Body and mind. Liar tried to sit up but winced. His muscles ached like someone had reassembled him wrong. Narration moved instantly, lifting a golden vial to his lips. Stabilizer serum, she said. It'll help. He took a sip and warmth unfurled through his chest. It was like swallowing sunlight, except it left his veins tingling and his thoughts a little looser. This has to be a mistake, he whispered. I was working on a conduit leak. There was a surge, then blackout. You died, Narration said calmly. You didn't die, Filari said at the same time. Their voices overlapped, contradicting in perfect unison. Liar groaned and leaned back, running a hand through his hair. I need to contact my ship. Communication with the living is forbidden during limbo classification, Naren replied. Until your case is reviewed, you're restricted to transitional facilities. And us, Villari reminded with a smirk. The room was too warm. Or maybe his skin was reacting to something. The way their eyes followed his movements felt clinical and personal at once, like prey being both studied and claimed. Are you seriously telling me I'm stuck here? With you two? Not stuck, Naren said gently. Bound? Liar opened his mouth to argue, but paused as both women stepped closer, one on each side of the bed. Don't be afraid, Villari whispered, brushing her lips near his ear but not touching. You didn't choose this, but now that you're here, maybe you'll realize how badly you needed it. And then they both reached for him, not to sedate, not to restrain, but simply to touch Dot, not with hunger. Not yet Dot with intent. Their hands were warm, alien, familiar Dot, and for the first time in hours, Liar Vane stopped trying to escape. The chamber had changed. Or maybe it was Liar's perception warping with every breath he took. The lights were dimmer now, casting the gold-etched walls in a gentle, honey-like glow. Somewhere distant, soft instrumental tones played, a melody that felt designed not for entertainment, but for compliance. Everything in this room whispered surrender. The plush textures under his body, the scent of charged floral air, and the two alien women who now flanked him like shadows with skin. You've stabilized enough for the ritual, Naren said softly. Standing at the foot of the bed with a fresh garment in her hands, fluid silver fabric that shimmered like water. It is time to begin your acceptance protocol. Liar blinked, still sluggish from the serum, but alert enough to feel the tension thickening. Ritual? What kind of ritual? The kind, Villari interrupted, already lounging back on a nearby reclining chair, that binds us to you fully, physically, psychologically, legally. She arched her back in a stretch that was too graceful to be innocent. It's standard protocol for high-sensitivity subjects. You're technically undefined, and undefined minds ... She let her gaze trail down his chest. Need anchors. Liar sat up straighter, jaw tightening. No offense, but I don't need to be anchored. I need to talk to someone. Anyone in charge. This whole, Naren stepped forward, her expression unreadable. There is no one above the system. You were filed as deceased. We were assigned. This isn't a negotiation. Liar looked between them, still half convinced he was dreaming. Or hallucinating. Or dying slower than expected. Villari rolled her eyes and stood in one fluid movement, approaching the bed with feline grace. Fine. If the human wants a briefing, give him the technical details. Naren nodded once. The acceptance protocol requires at least one full contact session. It ensures emotional stability, memory reconstruction, and confirmation of identity. It's how the system confirms that you are, still you. Contact? Liar echoed, already suspicious. Touch, Naren said simply. Regulated physical. Closeness. Calibrated skin-to-skin exchange. The ritual is part psychological scanning, part emotional imprinting. It's the only way to prepare you for classification reversal. And, Villari added, suddenly behind him, her breath warm on the back of his neck. It feels really, really good. He flinched slightly. You're not serious. We don't joke during rites, Naren replied calmly. Strip. The fabric must be worn skin to skin. No underlayers. Liar hesitated, then gave a short, humorless laugh. This is insane. You're dead, Villari said, smirking as she took the silver garment from her sister's hand. Sanity's a privilege. Of the living. He turned, mouth half open in protest, but stopped as Villari leaned close, holding the garment just inches from his chest. Her tone shifted low, sultry, but sincere. Let us help you. Liar. The sooner you complete this, the closer you are to getting answers. Real ones. There was a pause. A breath caught between defiance and surrender. Then, with a quiet exhale, Liar reached up and unbuttoned the top of his medical tunic. One button, then another. Neither woman moved, but the air seemed to get warmer. The moment the tunic dropped, Valari stepped forward and gently wrapped the silver fabric around him. It clung, instantly adjusting, tightening, humming faintly with alien tech as it sealed. Over his skin like living silk. Naryn moved to the edge of the bed and placed both palms on the surface. Initiating protocol link, Valari, assist. Liar. Felt the mattress pulse under him. A sensation like static electricity flowed into his legs and spine. His heart rate spiked, the garment reacting with shimmering ripples across his chest. Valari crawled beside him, the playfulness in her movements now tempered with something sharper intent. Naryn followed, mirroring her on the other side. And then, as one, they both touched him, one palm against each side of his ribcage. Their fingers splayed over his bare skin. Breathe with us, Naryn whispered. The light in the room faded. Not to darkness, but to focus. Every sound dulled except their breaths. Every surface faded from attention except their hands. He felt heat, not arousal, not yet, but something deeper. Something pulling. Memory? Identity? You were born in Sector 9 Terrestrial Zone, Engineer Class 2, Naryn murmured, her voice echoing in his head. You held your sister's hand during her fever. You stood between your crew and a reactor fire. You argued with your captain because you were the only one who cared what the system said. Liar's breath hitched. How do you know that? We don't, Valari whispered. You do. We're just helping you remember. That's what the ritual is. And then came the intimacy, not sexual, but electric. Skin against skin. Emotion against memory. He didn't realize he was gripping Valari's thigh until she leaned closer and pressed her forehead gently against his. You're not a ghost, she said. You're just lost. Naryn wrapped an arm around his shoulder, grounding him. Her lips brushed the side of his jaw, not to seduce, but to connect. And in that moment, Liar stopped thinking about forms, protocols, and errors. He stopped trying to classify what was happening, because nothing in his training had prepared him for a system that healed through touch. Liar stood barefoot in the middle of the transition chamber, still wrapped in that silver living cloth. It pulsed faintly with each heartbeat, his or the room's. He wasn't sure. The ritual had ended hours ago, or minutes, or seconds. Time twisted strangely on Valerith Station. He ran a hand through his damp hair and paced. No one's coming, is that it? He muttered. Just 2 alien women and a bureaucratic death certificate. The soft swoosh of the door answered him. He turned sharply. Naryn entered first, her posture as smooth and upright as a soldier, but her violet gaze softened the instant it landed on him. Behind her, Valari sauntered in like she owned the room and the man inside it, one hip cocked, wearing a loosely draped robe that shimmered every time she moved. Still anxious, Valari purred, tilting her head. That ritual calmed most souls. But not you. I need to talk to someone who isn't wrapped in silken ceremony, Liar shot back. Someone with a voice that doesn't sound like they're trying to seduce me. Valari laughed low and amused. Seduction isn't required. It's a bonus. Naryn stepped forward, her tone measured but gentle. You're still fighting the system, Liar. You've been flagged as emotionally unstable post-transition. The stabilizers didn't hold. You've been reassigned to full contact quarters. Liar's brow furrowed. Reassigned? Same room, Valari smirked, but now the bed has new permissions. What permissions? Valari sauntered toward the bed, fingers trailing across the carved wooden frame. Mandatory regulated co-sleeping. That means you don't get to sleep alone. He stared at her. You're kidding. Clause 9X, subsection E, Narration replied without blinking. Unstable souls must remain in tactile proximity to their bonded guardians during REM states. Nightmares, identity fractures, and her eyes flicked to him. Flight responses are common. Liar stepped back, exasperated. So now I'm not even allowed to sleep alone? Valari leaned forward, her voice a velvet purr. No. You're not allowed to sleep without us. Liar opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Because the truth was he didn't even know what he wanted anymore. Every time they touched him, something stirred in him. Something deeper than lust. Older than logic, and it terrified him. Narration walked over to the wall panel and tapped the screen. The lights dimmed automatically. The ambient warmth of the room increased by a degree. The bed adjusted, reshaping into a wider sunken nest of velvet and heat-reactive fabric. It's only until reclassification, she added softly. You rest. We'll stay nearby. You won't even notice us. Liar gave her a dry look. You're not exactly easy to not notice. Valari was already sliding into the bed, pulling back the sheet with a knowing smirk. Come on, Captain Grumpy. Stop pretending this isn't affecting you. He hesitated. But the silver suit was reacting again, tightening slightly, buzzing with nervous heat. His body wanted comfort. His mind wanted answers. But his heart was tired of fighting. He exhaled, walked toward the bed, and slid in, leaving space between himself and Valari. Narration joined next, moving with silent grace, taking the far side. For a moment, there was just silence, breathing. Warmth. Then Valari moved closer. Barely a shift. But he felt it. Back on your ship, she murmured into the quiet. Did anyone ever hold you when you couldn't sleep? Liar stayed silent. Did they know, she whispered, how your mind races when no one's watching? How you carry other people's problems like they're yours to fix? His throat tightened. I'm not here to break you, she added. I'm here to be the thing you never had, someone who doesn't ask why you're tired, just holds you through it. He turned his head slowly, meeting her eyes in the dark. There it was again, that ache. That dangerous, seductive intimacy. Valari reached over and gently, slowly laid her hand against his chest. His heart leapt. I can feel it, she whispered. You want to trust it. You just don't know how. Narration's voice came next, softer than he'd ever heard it. Let us show you. One night. No rules. No obligations. Just touch. Just rest. And God's help him. Liar didn't pull away. Instead, he rolled slightly, allowing Valari to curl against his side, her hand splayed across his stomach. Narration shifted behind him, her arms slipping around his waist with surprising gentleness. Sandwiched between them, Liar Vane felt like a man held by the galaxy itself. Not haunted, not haunted, just held. His breathing slowed, his body surrendered. And somewhere in that weightless moment between tension and release, he realized something else. He'd never felt safer in his life. Liar didn't remember falling asleep, but he remembered waking up, warmth pressed against him on both sides. A heartbeat that wasn't his pulsed softly beneath his ear. His body felt weightless, not because of low gravity, but because of the way they were wrapped around him. One arm draped across his chest, steady grounding. Another trailed fingertips lazily along his hip, teasing, aimless, like he was a thought she didn't want to finish. For a fleeting second, he forgot where he was. Then he opened his eyes. Velarith Station, legal death. 2 alien guardians bound to him by bureaucratic law. He should have panicked again. He didn't. Narration was already awake, her silver-white hair falling over her shoulder as she sat on the bed's edge, tablet in hand. She looked radiant even in silence. the cool authority in her posture contrasting the tenderness in her expression. Valerie, meanwhile, was very much not working. Still lying beside him, chin propped on her hand, studying his face like a story she couldn't stop rereading. "Good morning," she said, voice low and lazy. "Or whatever you call mornings in legal limbo." Liar blinked, his voice scratchy. "You watched me sleep?" "Of course," she smiled. "Observation is part of comfort protocol. And you make very expressive noises." Narration gave her a side glance. He stirred once. "That's not expressive." "It was a low groan," Valerie replied, "and there was hip movement. He's got repressed craving issues." "I don't have craving issues," Liar muttered, rubbing his eyes. "You do now," Valerie said with a grin. He sat up, reluctantly peeling himself from the warmth of the bed. The silver fabric clung to his skin, still humming faintly with his body heat. He looked around. No visible windows, no clocks, no contact from anyone but them. "Still no update from the administrator?" he asked, directing it toward Narration. She shook her head. "Your case is in queue. Reclassification reviews are slow, especially for cases marked as accidental interdimensional transit. So I'm still dead?" "Technically," she confirmed. Valerie stood and stretched like a cat, robe falling off one shoulder, but delightfully so. Liar moved toward the mirror on the wall, looking at himself like he didn't belong in his own skin. "Why do I feel more alive here than I ever did on my ship?" Narration paused, then said quietly, "Because here, your soul isn't filtered through duty or protocol. It's just you, and we reflect that back to you." Her words struck somewhere deep. It wasn't flattery. It was truth, offered gently. He turned toward her. "Why do you care so much?" Valerie stepped between them. Her tone was playful, but her eyes weren't. "Because when we were assigned to you," she said, brushing a strand of hair from his cheek, "we didn't just get your file. We got your emotional blueprint. The echoes of your grief, your anger, your loyalty. We felt what you felt, even if you didn't say it." He froze. "You never cried when your best friend died in the propulsion fire," Valerie continued, voice softening. "You just kept fixing the damn systems. You stayed up for 36 hours making sure no one else would get hurt." Liar swallowed hard. "That's what made the bond real," Narration added. "You didn't just survive, you carried everyone." His defenses faltered. For a moment, he didn't know if he wanted to fight or fall into them again, but then something shifted. The wall display flickered to life on its own. Incoming message. Delay in administrative review. Status unchanged. Remain in containment. Like he was a specimen. Or worse, a glitch. Valerie saw his jaw clench. "Liar," she said gently, reaching out. But this time, he pulled away. "I'm not a patient," he said, voice tight. "I'm not a case. I'm a person." "We know that," Narration said. "Do you?" His voice sharpened. "Because sometimes I think you two forget I didn't choose this. You were assigned. Everything that's happened, the touches, the closeness, it wasn't mine to choose. You were given to me. I didn't ask for any of it." Silence followed. Valerie's expression shifted. For once, her teasing dropped completely. "You think we didn't feel that too?" she said, voice lower, hurt. "That every time we touched you, we weren't aware of how wrong it would feel if it wasn't mutual?" Narration stepped between them, her voice calm but firm. "We're not here to trap you, but you need to understand something. This bond isn't a cage. It's a mirror. It only deepens if you let it." Liar looked away, breathing hard. "Emotion." Nodded in his chest. "I don't know what I feel," he admitted. He single quotes beautiful, kind, strange. But every time you touch me, I feel like I'm slipping further into something I don't control." Valerie approached slowly this time. More cautious, more real. Maybe that's okay, she whispered. Maybe control is what kept you empty for so long. Liar met her eyes, and this time, he didn't look away. He was terrified, but he didn't step back. It started with the lights flickering. Then came the sound of low-frequency hum rising through the walls like the station was breathing wrong. Narration was already moving toward the wall terminal, her silver fingers flying across the control panel. Valari's entire body stilled, her joking nature vanishing like a flame snuffed too fast. Liar stood from the bed, still wrapped in the living fabric suit, his skin prickling with the sensation of static crawling over it. What is that? He passed unauthorized system access, Narration answered, her voice flat with urgency. Someone's trying to breach the classification core. Is that bad? Liar asked. Valari turned to him, her expression deadly serious. It's catastrophic. If they alter classification data, they could rewrite reality, make the dead alive, the living erased. You're already in a loophole. If they overwrite your record now, I disappear? Worse, Narration said, you become a contradiction. And contradictions get purged by the system. The walls groaned around them, and an emergency klaxon pulsed red across the ceiling. Code Delta 9. Classification. Integrity compromised. Initiating lockdown. Doors slammed shut. The windows darkened. And the air turned cold. We're locked in, Narration said, pressing her hand to the sealed panel. Protocol override is disabled. We can't request evacuation. Valari was already pacing. This is no accident. Someone knew the system was vulnerable. Liar's heart pounded. Why would anyone target this place? Because the system is power, Narration answered. And you? You're proof that loopholes exist. Valari stepped in front of him. They might come for you. To erase you, absorb your undefined status, or use you as a bargaining chip. He looked between them. Then let's hide. Get out of here. Narration didn't move. Valari didn't blink. Lior frowned. What? We're not running, Valari said. You have to, he argued. I'm the one at risk. I'm the one. You're. Ours, Narration interrupted, stepping closer. Her eyes shimmered with emotion she rarely allowed. You think we're just assigned pieces in this machine, but this bond, it became real. Valari moved behind him, slipping her arms around his torso, holding him like something sacred. You were supposed to be a file, a name, a soul to stabilize, she whispered. But you became a fire we didn't know we missed. I didn't ask for any of this, he said, voice cracking. You didn't need to, Narration replied, her hand now over his heart. We chose it anyway. Alarm screamed louder, and a new message appeared. Core override in progress. Purge protocol. 15 minutes to activation. Lio our single quotes S knees weakened. 15 minutes until what? Until the system deletes everything with unstable status, Narration sighed. You included. Valari pulled him tighter. Unless we stop it. You said we were locked in. Narration's lips curved faintly. We're comfort guardians. But we're also trained for containment breaches. There are other exits. She pressed her palm to a hidden panel on the far wall. A square slid open, revealing a narrow tunnel lined with pale blue lights. Valari grinned. Smuggling ghosts is technically illegal, but we've bent worse laws. Where does it lead? To the core, Narration said. Where your record is stored. If we get there before the breach completes, we can shield your classification manually. You're risking everything, Liar murmured. Valari touched his jaw, her fingers warm. That's what you do for someone who's become yours. He looked at her, then at Nairyn. Two women, assigned to him by fate or law or some absurd glitch in cosmic paperwork. But now they were standing between him and oblivion, And they weren't running. He swallowed hard. Then let's go. They led him into the tunnel, Naren in front, Villari behind. The passage narrowed as they moved, the lights pulsing like a heartbeat. Halfway through, the station trembled. Liar stumbled and Villari caught him. You okay? She asked, lips near his ear. He nodded, scared. Good, she whispered. Means you've got something to lose now. They emerged into a circular chamber, the outer wall of the core. Dozens of data veins pulsed across its surface like nerves under skin. Naren placed her palm to the central console, identifying entity undefined. Awaiting classification stabilization, Villari turned to Liar. Only you can finalize it. Only you exist outside the system. He stepped forward slowly. His hands touched the pulsing panel, and a voice soft, mechanical, ancient spoke from the console. Liar Vane, do you wish to be defined? He looked over his shoulder at the two women. Their eyes weren't just full of duty now. They were full of him, and something in his chest clicked into place. I do, he whispered. But not without them. Asterisk, the moment Liar spoke the words, not without them. The core responded. Warm light spilled from the console, coiling around his arms like golden vines. His silver-woven suit pulsed in rhythm with the core's heartbeat. Behind him, Naren and Villari remained perfectly still, eyes locked on him, breath held. As if something sacred was unfolding. Emotional anchor request confirmed, the core's voice echoed. Initiating form Omega-9, resurrection. With attachment clause, Naren's hand trembled at her side. Villari's lips parted in something like you chose it, Naren whispered. I chose you, Liar said, turning to face them, his voice raw. I didn't ask for this place or your rules or your rituals. But I'll be damned if I walk out of here pretending you don't mean something now. The chamber shimmered. Threads of light connected all three of them, glistening links that wrapped around their wrists, their hearts, their very breath. Attachment clause requires full consent, the system prompted. Confirm connection with bonded guardians. Villari stepped forward without hesitation. Her fingers gripped his shirt, yanked him down into a kiss that stole the core's hum from his ears. It wasn't soft or tentative, it was claiming. A silent vow in fire and tongue. She pulled back just enough to whisper, confirmed. Naren followed slower, more reverent. She reached for his hand, guided it to her chest, over her heart. I've never disobeyed protocol, she murmured. But I'd break every rule for you. Then she kissed him, deeply, silently, fully, and when she pulled away, she too whispered, confirmed. Liar's knees buckled, but he stayed standing as the console finished its process. Resurrection. Approved. Existential status updated. Alive, claimed. The golden threads tightened into glowing marks on his skin, subtle tattoos that pulsed with shared connection. The system dimmed. The core went silent. It was done. Naren leaned into his side. You're officially alive again. Villari rested, her head on his shoulder, and legally ours. He let out a long breath. So, what does that make me? Naren smiled. You are now a living soul under Guardian Bond regulation, meaning we are responsible for your protection, comfort, and emotional fulfillment. Villari licked her lower lip. And every need you don't realize you have yet. Liar raised an eyebrow. That sounds suspiciously like permanent custody. It is, Naren said softly, but also something more. The exit doors to the core slid open behind them. No alarms, no klaxons. Just a long, peaceful hallway that led back to the main station. Reborn, unchained, free. And yet, none of them moved. Instead, Villari turned toward a private side alcove, plush, dim, luxurious. A recovery suite, We're technically required to monitor your vitals after resurrection, she said, her tone dripping with mischief. It's standard procedure to initiate a sensory sync. Fully clothed contact is optional. Liar looked between them. Optional, huh? Naren's eyes softened. But intimacy is no longer forbidden. Consent form? He asked, half teasing. Valari's grin turned feral. Already filed. She took his hand and led him inside. Naren followed, sealing the door behind them. The moment the door hissed shut, silence fell, except for the growing heat in the space between them. Liar backed up toward the bed, half dazed. So, now what? Naren moved first. She touched the hem of his suit. The living fabric shivered in response. It responds to desire now, she whispered. Yours ... and ours. The suit melted away like dew under sunlight. Valari pressed against his back, whispering, You're not ours because the system says so anymore. You're ours because you let us in. Naren stepped closer, placing her palm on his chest. And now, she said, voice low, we show you what it really means to be alive. They guided him down onto the bed not as caretakers, not as maids, but as women who had claimed something rare, someone who had finally chosen them back. Their hands explored not to control, but to memorize. Their mouths followed not rules but need. And as Liar surrendered to the warmth, to their touch, to the weight of being wanted beyond duty, he finally understood. He wasn't trapped. He was home.